In my last video, I explained how I think the narrative around NIO R&D and investment in battery swap stations is misleading, or at least investors should be able to see beyond the official cash burn narrative, instead thinking opportunities, and NIO might improve its investor relations if they talk a bit more about the potentials of battery swap stations aside of replenishing power, meaning swapping the batteries. And now today I want to continue this discussion because I had just a quick exchange here with David Sulzer, who is the new general manager for NIO Germany. I haven't met him in person yet, but we just bounced off here a quick discussion on LinkedIn. By the way, you can also go and follow me and connect with me on LinkedIn under my name. And I just reacted to his post here, which was about battery swap stations and the potential aside of replenishing power. So it was good to see actually already, one of the first takes by a NIO employee also stressing that maybe they're watching the videos, or I have no idea, they are now thinking that they also want to be more outgoing, talking about this potential. So maybe it's happening. Anyways, I want to talk a little bit more about some aspects mentioned here in this post, and then also some numbers, and I leave you with an idea spark or a idea that I had following around this topic and which I actually commented here on the post. So let's get into this. It's the general manager of NIO speaking about battery swap stations, which can not only replenish powers and charge e-vehicles, electric vehicles, but also NIO power grid services can balance grid fluctuations and the energy demands, both when there's overcapacity in the energy grid, but also when there is a need for stabilization, but also an energy demand. And battery swap stations can play a role in that. And actually, yesterday, in my NIO Patreon community, I posted this, which unfortunately is in German, but this chart is brilliant because it's showing you how solar power is actually leading to those huge price fluctuations during the day in the German energy grid. So this is just one example. It's just for one type of power, solar power. You can make a similar chart for wind power, and it's for the German energy grid. But what you can see here is how much those energy prices are fluctuating from 104 euro per megawatt hour down to minus 49 euros, so meaning it's actually a negative energy price here, and then up again to 178 euros per megawatt hour. And these type of fluctuations are tradable. And if you have an energy storage, such as a battery swap station, then you can become part of the grid and basically helping to balance out these different fluctuations in both the energy, how it's flowing, and also the price mechanism behind it. And in Europe, this is actually quite advanced already. You can have there's an energy bourse or energy exchange where you can trade electricity. In China, it's just starting to come, and both in Germany, in Europe, and in China, NIO is doing pilot projects with battery swap stations in participating in those grid balancing activities, and obviously price arbitrage trading, because obviously you can load up batteries in a battery swap station at a negative price, or you can get paid at a negative price if there's there's an overload in electricity there, so you can soak it up basically with the battery swap station and then give it back into the grid if the price is high and there is demand for energy. So this is what's possible in a theoretical way, and what NIO is participating currently, and why I think investors should see the infrastructure bill as a huge asset and a revenue potential for the future. And we also want to talk about a couple of numbers here. This one I reposted. I don't know this X account, to be honest. And I don't want to judge the numbers that this guy has been doing. He said with 2,474 swap stations, they can move 54 to 77 gigawatt hour of energy daily. And this could result into equivalent of 3.8 million to 5.5 million in profits, or selling 3,800 to 550 cars daily. So this is just one example. I also made a video maybe almost 3 years ago already about my own projections. So this is in my NIO business case. I possibly have to update this, but I was also coming to the conclusion that there are actually lots of potentials here for having the fleet as well as the battery swap stations being part of the grid and acting as a grid balancer, and therefore making hundreds of millions annually with the whole battery swap stations. Now I leave it for there, not going into the exact numbers, which are more plausible or not. I think maybe every investor should come to its own conclusions, like what's the potential here. I'm just showing that, there is the potential. And now out of this, my idea spark, which I posted under the LinkedIn post here by this German NIO Germany manager, which is that shouldn't every local community have its own battery swap station and actually share some of its benefits with the local citizen? And where is this idea coming from? Well, actually, it's a bit personal, but I wrote my bachelor thesis a while ago about energy efficiency renovation of buildings, of public buildings, and how local citizen can actually participate in the outcomes of renovating publicly owned infrastructure, like old buildings, like let's say a town hall or something. Often these types of buildings are not being renovated because the community lacks the resources, the cash, the money to do it. But we've seen, and that was, my bachelor was 2012 or something, a couple of years ago already. We've seen what's happening in Germany, that there were basically crowdsourced funds established, which crowdsourced the funds of local communities. So everybody who lives, let's say, in a 2,000 people community, and they would all throw in, let's say, 500 euros, 1,000 euros in order to gather what's necessary to renovate a publicly owned building. And usually that building was renovated in order to become more energy efficient with using solar panels and so on. And I was thinking about how we could use those income streams of solar panels in order to amortize the renovation cost. And basically every citizen, and that was my my bachelor thesis here, like what kind of a legal environment we need and how is this possible and so on. Every citizen could become basically an owner of this energy efficiency renovation, meaning providing the cash, then the renovation is done, and then reaping parts of the benefits. So this is kind of almost like investing in a company, because in a sense you had this little investment vehicle which acts like a company. It's getting the funds from externally, it's doing the renovations, and then it's getting the cash flows and breaking even over time with the energy that it's saving. And I think that's where I pointed also this idea to NIO. Actually, each local community in Germany, in China, wherever, could establish a similar system in which battery swap stations are getting crowdfunded, because as we've seen, they can balance the grid. There is an energy arbitrage trading opportunity for that. And of course, at the same time, it can also help to EVs to replenish their power. So that's just one more revenue stream and application case that it can do, right? But the interesting idea here would be like, instead of having NIO or even now the battery swapping partners to pay for the battery swap stations, it could actually well be also communities, local citizen that could decide, look, our small little village would otherwise not get a battery swap station because for a private company, it's not worth an investment. However, if we had this battery swap station in our community, then first of all, we could make money by the services that it's offering to EV cars and also by the energy arbitrage trading. Plus, it benefits us as a local community because we also have a windmill and we have got solar panels on our roofs, and we have the difficulty with the energy demand spikes, and also there's a way of monetizing that. So it would make sense for local communities to establish such funds and each community to have their own battery swap station. And that for battery swapping would mean that there would be a new set of build out of battery swap stations funded by users, which are not necessarily car owners or EV owners, but they are local citizens of this area and could help with this infrastructure build out. And yeah, that would not be to the benefit of NIO in the first place, maybe, other than that there would be more battery swap stations, and battery swap stations overall would become more and more, and therefore battery swapping would get even more adoption. Plus, there would be more support from local governments and in general by the public for battery swapping because they would see the application cases. So it would be a huge franchise to public services kind of effect, which is kind of even going much beyond the NIO ecosystem and the NIO business model. But I think, we've seen that happening with energetic renovations, like I pointed out. In Germany, that has happened many times. And it's just a model that NIO could think about, that they could also have a stake in, of course, by providing the technology, but also maybe connecting their software and arbitrage trading, delivering this type of infrastructure so they can also get the royalties from that, and also could maybe have something like for the crowdfunding mechanism, there could be something like, almost blockchain type of a token for a battery swap station is being sold and distributed to each user. And then each user maybe has an app that they can open where they can see how many swaps have been done, how much arbitrage has been traded this time of the day, and so on. Everybody is getting their own return on investment on these swap stations. But in effect, this would just underscore also how much of a business case there is behind that. And that's ultimately, again, why I think people should not think at these as liabilities, but as potential business. And I think it would even make sense on local communities. So now I talked a lot, but maybe that's a good topic for a weekend edition here. Thanks for watching. See you in my next videos.